Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Alanna Fox Starks. Hey guys, I hope you're having a relaxing day today. It was an extremely rainy, really rainy day, and it's still that way here. I mean, so much so that the pigeons outside were begging to come in, but then they were afraid of me, so they just kind of hovered on the windowsill in between the window and the dining room. Yesterday, my son left the dining room open, the windows open, and ran to the bathroom for a minute, and he came back. The pigeons were on the table pecking at, they had come inside, they never did this before. They were pecking at the bag of birdseed that they knew was for them. And when he walked in the room, they started flying around the room all crazy because the windows had shut and they didn't know what to do. So they've gotten bolder suddenly, and they still won't let us touch them, but they're like trusting us a little more. I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but yeah, it's nice to have friends. Last night, after I finished recording, I don't know what happened. Oh, I'm so tired still. I'm so tired. Last night, after I finished recording, and I pushed the publish button, and I got up and I grabbed an apple, and I was still listening to my show, so I came back to my room as I finished my apple, and I woke up, and that was at midnight, my time. I woke up 5 hours later, all of my lights on, apple core in my hand. I don't know what the hell happened. I mean, I was just like knocked out. So I think we got another wave of some kind of light. I have a lot of feeling that that's what happened. I woke up this morning and I felt like I had serious crying syndrome. Like just really like I couldn't breathe. My asthma was bad. As you guys know, yesterday my sinuses were bad. Well, I figured out it was my twin flame. So if you are a twin, this may be happening to you. If you're an empath, you might be taking on stuff from people around you. And it seems like the upper chakras and also like the lungs and sinuses, we're just trying to clear out grieving. And I finally did a meditation today and found out I am not grieving for anything in my life. I'm actually helping my twin go through something. We take on stuff from our twin as well as people around us and our family members. So anyway, my twin, if you're out there, I helped you with it. I burned it up. I did not send it back to you, and I'm ready to take on more if you need it. Anyway, I will take it on. It's okay. Now that I know where it's coming from, it makes me feel better, because I was like, God, am I really like repressed like a massive amount of grief? And I think he's going through something pretty hard today, possibly yesterday and today. And well, I wish him luck, and it is what it is, but we're all in this boat together, so we got to help. We all have to grab an oar and row along, you know? So yesterday I wanted to add a couple things that I didn't quite, I'm yawning again. It's so weird. It wasn't that I was not, it's just stuff that I thought about after I finished the show and published it. So it wasn't like I left it out accidentally. It's just stuff I'm adding. So, I wanted to say that not only do babies have their Kundalini raised because they need the life energy to survive the first couple months, also it makes them feel closer to heaven because that's where they just came from. And it's a really rough transition coming from the 7th dimension down to the 3rd dimension. And as we're all making our way up the rungs, I think, and I can't really obviously be certain about this, I think heaven has moved to the 9th dimension while we're moving to the 5th. So it's a transition for everybody. All of our loved ones that have passed away are also transitioning the way that we are. So we're always going to be like 4 away from them. You know, like 2 dimensions we can live in away from them and 2 dimensions that have other stuff in between. It's like layers, because like in the 4th dimension, for example, you can't really live there. It's where our mental everything is, and it's where our, like, all of our thoughts, ideas, opinions, beliefs, nightmares, dreams, goals, all that stuff, all the mental junk. And most of it's not junk, actually, but a lot of the junk is, there too, like monsters that people have created and negative thought forms that people have created. It all hangs out on the 4th dimension, so we can't really actually live there. That has nothing to do with today's topic, but I wanted to mention it because I started, I always look around YouTube for people that I can be inspired by, or people that maybe I can ask on the show. And there was yet one other person different than the one I mentioned yesterday, and she was saying how we're getting ready to move into the 4th dimension. That's not true. You cannot live in the 4th dimension. In fact, your mind has already been living in the 4th dimension this entire time. The 4th dimension is also the dimension where time exists. So you can't really live there. You got to go up one above that. And in a way, we're going to live timelessly. And speaking of timelessly, I did notice that today I lived for what felt like an hour, and it had only been 7 minutes. So that was weird. It was like a time anomaly. Like, I had gotten up, I had, did my stuff I normally do to wake up, get dressed. I didn't have to make my bed because, well, actually this one I did, because I did get up at 5 in the morning, went back and slept until 10:30. But, so I did, I did my stuff. I got dressed, I made my bed, washed my face, and all that normal stuff. And then I had a cup of coffee, had a conversation with my son. I checked my email, and I did all that, and it was like 7 minutes. And it's like, wait, what? Usually that takes like an hour and a half. Like, just like the normal morning stuff, especially when I'm really tired like I was this morning. So I just feel like there's time anomalies, so be aware of that. If that happens, that might be an excess, another, ascension symptom for you. Yay. Fun stuff to look forward to. Or stuff you've been going through. When you hear me say it, so now you don't seem so crazy. I put my crazy out there so you don't have to feel so much like you're crazy. So there's that. Yesterday I was talking about the Kundalini. Oh, actually, I have one more thing saved before that. When I come back, I'll talk about the Kundalini. A few days ago, maybe a week ago, I was telling you guys about the app called Star Nations. Well, it took them a month to get back to me. It's like by invite only. I was worried that they had rejected me and all that. And so after waiting a whole month, I'd already deleted the app. I was like, this blows, whatever, and it was just, I kind of felt like, wow, I have to be judged to be a part of this, and it was just like, it felt kind of weird, but I thought, well, no, I'll feel it out. Well, they finally let me in, and they let me, mention my podcast for free without paying for advertisement. And, I was joining a lot of the groups, and then I started noticing that a lot of the groups had not had any activity for like 2 years. So I thought that was weird. And then, but one guy had just gotten in like the same week I did. And he had already left a bad review for them, and then he got in right after his bad review. And he and I started to become friends. We started to talk every day. And Zachary, if you're listening, get a hold of me through my show, because, what I'm about to say, you already know. The app, like 3 days ago, or 4 days ago, went out. Like, it just stopped working. And I'm like, okay, well, I deleted it, and then I re-added it, and then it was still not working. So I turned off my phone, turned it on again, all that good stuff. I went to their website, and it's the same freaking thing. It's a blank white page. So either their server crashed, or they just shut it all down without any warning to anybody. I mean, I just spent like a couple hours on there this past week, and I was going to give it a nice extra week and then give you guys a massively great review. And now I just can't even clear conscience even, recommend it at all. And it's such a bummer. I mean, if they come back online with a big explanation for everybody, if they're able to email everyone saying, oh my God, sorry about that, guys, we blew our server out because there's so much activity. Or, if there's just some explanation, I mean, maybe they're doing this from Canada, maybe the power grid went down, hopefully that's not the case. But I mean, it's just weird. I don't know what happened there. So we're going to put a pin in that. We're putting it on hold. I've already deleted the app from my phone. If they come back online in a month, you will let you know, because I had given them a 5-star review after I got to know the app for a few days. And I was so excited, and I was getting ready to review it 3 days ago for you guys. And all of a sudden that, and I'm like, well, and every day for 3 days, I'm like, what's going on? You just don't have an app with thousands of people on it and then just cut it off for no reason. And so I think something's happening. I think they're having some kind of problem. It might be with their server. Maybe they're overlording. I don't even know what I was going to say. They're outlouding, overlording, overloading. Yay, there it is. Oh my God. I don't know if I told you guys, I'm a Heyoka lightning shaman. What lightning means is I was struck by lightning. So sometimes I lose my words. And I will be talking about the lightning strike at some point in the future. I'm not ready to talk about it yet. Just a weird thing. But today the Schumann resonance has been relatively calm. It's only been 15 for the day. So double what's been for thousands of years, not more. So we were getting a little bit of a break today. So why I feel so darn tired, I have no idea. I don't know if I'm just reeling from the energy of the past 3-4 days, which might be what it is, plus from my twin, so I don't know. Anyway, if you guys ever want to get in touch with me, you could go to anchor.fm/metaphysical. You can send me a voice message there, or you can go to my Twitter feed at mermaidgirl888 or Tumblr. I am Metaphysical Soul, I think, there. Ah, damn it. I said this a few days ago and I forgot. I think I'm Metaphysical Soul there. I'm Metaphysical Soul on Facebook also. And we have a Metaphysical Soul Speak page on Facebook as well. I still have yet to update my website, but I'm getting to it. I'm going to put out a really big ad really soon to more of our Starseed and Lightworker New Age communities. I found an amazing way to do that. So hopefully we will have a lot more people coming aboard, because this show, I'm hoping, will join a lot of us together. And eventually, we'll have a lot more people on the show as well. I mean, I still have plenty of material. I could be doing this for another 2 months without a guest, but I do have some guests coming up. I don't have anything scheduled as of yet, but when I do, I'll let you know. So I'm going to take a quick break and be right back. And we're going to discuss Kundalini. This is, again, going to be a standalone show. So you can listen to this one or yesterday or both. You don't need one to understand the other. But I did want you to know that, they're more powerful together. And today is a Reverend Marion Jones story day. It's a Marion Jones story, Grandma Marion. It's actually a story that my husband told me about her, that she told him, and I confirmed it with her later. And she said, yeah, absolutely. But I'll tell you what she said absolutely to after the break. All right, I'll be right back. Hey you, have you ever thought about having your own podcast like me? Was it even a New Year's resolution? For me, it sure was. But as I've been looking into this for months, I was daunted. There's so many questions I had. When I was trying to get this off the ground, I was wondering, how do I record the episode? How do I get it across all the platforms? How do I get my podcast on Apple Podcasts when I don't even have an iPhone? How do I get it onto Spotify and all the other places? How do I get people to listen? And how do I make money from my podcast? How do I edit it? Oh my God, I had all these questions and I was so confused until I discovered the simple answer is Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and it is ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you could get paid to podcast. All you need to do is record it. You don't have to go out and look for people to advertise on your show. They help you. So basically what I like about podcasting is I don't have to have a video of myself. You don't know if my hair is dirty or if I'm still in my pajamas or even if I'm wearing makeup. Haha. And it's so easy. I could do this from the comfort of my own home in my living room using this amazing app right from my cell phone. So easy, right? So if you've always wanted to start your own podcast and make money, by the way, doing it, please go to anchor.fm/start. That is anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters that are already using Anchor. Again, that's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast and I can't wait to favorite you. Woohoo! Let's be broadcast podcast buddies. I'll see you there. Hey guys, so I'm back. I had recorded this entire section and I had, 2/3 of the way through. And even though my battery had enough charge, I think I hopped forward in time to where my phone had no charge and it shut off and I lost the whole section. So now I'm recording it all over again. Oh my God, welcome to my world. Anyway, it's all good. Murphy, I'll get you one day. All right. I wanted to say that, and I hope I didn't say this in the beginning part. I just listened to it and forgot to listen for this, so forgive me if I'm doubling up on the information. The Kundalini, when it rises up through the Sushumna Nadi, which is the path near the spine. And as it does that, it pierces through each chakra, thereby activating them one at a time. So the next part I'm going to tell you, you need to have that information for the story. All right, so Reverend Marion Jones, or Grandma Marion, as you recall from last week, again, that was a standalone show too, but it's interesting to find out how she came to Colorado, under what circumstances that were super mysterious. Anyway, she arrived at this mansion in the middle of nowhere, and they were expecting her. And she was told that she was going to have lessons, spiritual lessons. And so she's like, cool, I'm down for that, basically. I mean, she didn't talk like that. I'm paraphrasing. But she said, yes, I would love that. So, yeah. So, as Doreal, Master Doreal, who is responsible for bringing the Emerald Tablets of Hermes to the world, that guy, that man, Master Avatar, he had gathered enough people to begin his beginners classes. And he gathered them all around and he said, what I'm about to teach you is extremely serious stuff. I am going to give you instructions on how to forcibly raise your Kundalini to the top so that you can understand on a quantum level everything else I'm going to be teaching you. So basically, he wanted enlightened beings with a really open mind and an open energetic field and an open spiritual heart. And he wanted everyone to be ready to receive what he was going to give, because it wasn't just what he's saying with his words, right? It was like on multiple levels, like the downloads of light packets we've been gained from the sun. Well, he was like a sun himself in a way. He was an illumined, Christed master, and possibly more. Like he might have been an avatar, like Brother Yeshua was. So basically, he gathered everyone around and they all kind of sat in a half circle around him, and I think on the floor with, blankets around them and sitting on pillows, because that's comfortable when you're getting ready to meditate and forcibly move your Kundalini upwards. So he was doing that, and he said, until you are able to raise your Kundalini, at least to your crown chakra, I can't really tell you anything else. And he said, take your time, but you got a week, So everyone did it. They forced their Kundalini up. Now, the biggest reason why I do not recommend you ever to force your Kundalini through your mantras and tantras and yantras and God knows what you're trying to use, the reason is coming up. So you're going to want to pay attention to this. Now, Grandma Marion told us that she was not really, she told my husband, and then later I confirmed it with her in person. And again, while I'm preparing for this recording tonight, her spirit is with me again. So she just kind of felt like she had always been taught her whole life never to force that it would come up on its own. And it usually does if someone is very spiritually inclined and they're doing the meditative work and the spiritual work, and they're, clearing themselves of emotional stuff and past traumas and dramas and, just crap that life throws at you. If you're on the spiritual path, eventually your Kundalini will absolutely raise. Now, if something outside of you forces it, that's okay. That's okay. You need to know the information I gave you yesterday, because if it does happen, it's going to be something that you're going to need to know. And don't think I'm exaggerating here, please, because as I said, you're going to want to pay attention in the next few minutes when I explain this. So basically, Marion was in the room with all the other students, and they all had their blankets around them, because when you meditate, there's a tendency to get very cold after a couple hours. Actually, after the first 20 minutes, it's like sleep, and your body temperature drops. And plus it's Colorado, and it gets cold there. So you always want to have a blanket anyway. So she was managing to raise her Kundalini. She did it. She figured it out. She got the breath right. She got the exercise right. And she forced her Kundalini all the way up to the top of her crown, as did most of the students, actually. And I think she had told me that there was in total like around 19 students. So 16 were able to do it, and the other 3 were not. But please pay attention to this part right now. please pay attention to this, because if your Kundalini is being forcibly moved up by you, or, which please don't do that, but if you're doing it anyway, because you're not going to listen, you got to know this, okay? Or if any other outward life, circumstance forces it up, or if it's just naturally rising and it's your time to spiritually become a little bit more enlightened and a little bit more awakened, you're going to want to know this, okay? So 3 people in her group had started the Kundalini awakening process, and as the serpent, which is another name for Kundalini, started to rise up their spine, up their Sushumna Nadi, what happened was it got to the level of like their 3rd chakra, which is just below the heart, the identity chakra, and they panicked and they stopped the exercise. They did not follow through, and it went shooting back down down below their sacroiliac and down directly into the ground, where it got anchored accidentally, and they went insane. I don't mean for an hour or something, and I don't mean, just, crazy a little bit. I mean, it's time for the psychiatric pavilion, and mommy can see you on Saturdays forever. That's what happened to 3 of the students right in front of Reverend Marion Jones' eyes. She witnessed this, and she questioned Doreal outside of the classroom in his office later about it. She said, I don't believe you have to force people to do this. And he did not agree. He said, look, if people come to me and they're ready to spiritually grow, they have to do this in order to get all of the information. So that was one point. That was the first point, the first contingency that she felt like the person should be ready. She was able to manage to do it, but she wasn't ready. She wasn't ready for what was going to come after, And in time, she got used to it, and she got used to the energy, but she kind of always felt like she should never have forced it. She should have allowed God to choose the moment, or Mother Nature to choose the moment, or something outside of herself. She did not believe that she should have forced. It's like, Eve eating the apple from the tree of life after God specifically said not to, and she wasn't ready. And she listened to the serpent, and she did it. And she forced it. And she got thrown out of paradise. I think it is a cautionary tale about Kundalini. I really do. So that is my first story about Grandma Marion and Kundalini, okay? Now, the second story that I'm going to tell is deeply personal to me. Earlier, I opened up my Indigo's software app. It's like a folder for the 18 different card decks. I mentioned it the other day. And I had, I'm doing 1 or 2 decks a week just to see which ones I like, or if they're, worthwhile, to pay for them. So you have like 7 days to trial them. And if you don't like them, then you don't have to pay for it. So it's kind of nice, So anyway, today I downloaded the Archangel Michael deck, and it's really beautiful. And I love the art. It's extremely simple, but it's beautiful. It's pretty colors and like shiny objects and pretty colors. I mean, what do you want from me? I'm secretly a mermaid inside. I don't know if anyone of you have ever heard what Lisa Transcendence Brown always says, but she says, I'm tired of being an adult. Let's be mermaids. But anyway, I digress. Back to actually what I was here for. So, all right. So basically, my Kundalini awakening. Now, normally, before I say that, normally in like Kabbalistic traditions, for example, in the Hebrew mysticism, in their traditions, men are not even allowed to study the Kabbalah until they have hit the age of 40 years old. 40 is a very sacred number, and it is tied to, I want to say Aben, which means father. That's either 26 or 40. God, I think it's 40 though. So anyway, the 40 is a very sacred number, and it's a very sacred age. And men have to be mature enough before they can study the Holy Kabbalah in the tradition, the Hebrew mysticism, Jewish mysticism tradition. So I keep saying the Hebrew, but it's like, because Hebrew, the letters are also very, very sacred. Each one, I mean, you could write almost a whole book on each actual individual letter, because there's so many spiritual hidden meanings behind the way that the letters are shaped and formed, what they mean, the numbers that they relate to. And everything is super intricate when it comes to Judaism from the mystical standpoint, as well as the letters, and how it ties into the Holy Tarot, how it ties into the Kabbalah. I mean, it's all really intricate. It's incredible. So anyway, so usually people go their whole lives without their Kundalini awakening. And when it happens, it's usually past the age of 30, usually past the age of 40. But honestly, it doesn't happen like hardly at all. But this is a different time we all live in. This is why I'm giving this information I'm about to give you out, because it's time, and the planet itself is moving up, and it's going to precipitate all of us moving our Kundalini up all the way out of our heads, all the way throughout all of our chakras. And you need to know it. You need to know the information. I mean, I've gone to a couple mystery schools, and I was taught never, ever, ever divulge this information. Don't start a conversation about it. Don't talk about it. And until now, until this very day, I haven't. The only one way in which you can talk about it before now is if someone asks you specifically. If they go, oh wait, you go to Self-Realization Fellowship, or you are part of this mystery school, and I wanted to ask you specifically, have you ever had your Kundalini raised? Then and only then are you able to talk about it. Don't cast your pearls before swine, lest they be trampled. I mean, Jesus said it. I mean, it's in all the mystery schools. Everybody knows this. Everyone who's been a part of this stuff knows it. Well, I'm telling you guys now. God told me to tell you guys now. So it's okay for me to release information when my higher self says it. So anyway, it's a very personal story. So I'm just going to jump right in. My first child was 6 months old at the time that this happened, and I was having a problem with breastfeeding. I was able to do it, but the problem was that every time I breastfed my child, my baby, my hormones started raging out of control. I would get extremely hot. I would get flush. I would just get like totally sweaty. And the estrogen in my body, the estrogen levels would spike out of control. And I was unable to breathe. I would take my inhalers. I had a couple inhalers. I had the preventative one that I still take to this day. And then I have the rescue inhaler. None of them would ever work. So for about a week, I had been taking Anna's essential oil and drinking extra water. I had tried everything. I had done like a couple days detox. I mean, I did everything I could think of, and I wasn't able to breathe very well. And I think I might have been starting to get sick. So I was really, really, really scared. And when you're asthmatic, The problem is air gets trapped in your lungs, and your body takes all the oxygen out of that air, but it's still stuck there. And then you can't get more air in. And you slowly lose oxygen to the brain, and you lose oxygen to the body, and you just die. Like, you kind of pass out and then you die. And it's terrifying. So it's something that since the day I was born, I've lived with, right? And I still have it now, but it's really like 10% of what it used to be. You know, some days it's 20% depending, but usually it's when now I get it because it's a tool and I see it as it's like, okay, like today, I had crying syndrome, my asthma's been bad for 2 days, and I realized that my twin flame is going through something super, super bad, like I mentioned in the first half. So whatever it is he's going emotionally through, I'm taking it on, and it represents physically in my body as asthma. It's how it presents itself. So I, you know, when I realize that someone else's is like, oh, okay, let it go. And already my asthma's a lot better. So, yeah, it's a fun tool. So, all right, this is the deal. I had already been sick for about a week. I was already having problems before with the hormonal surges, as well as, and plus my baby is, you know, her life is dependent on my being able to breastfeed. She was only about 6 months old, like had only turned 6 months old, like a few days before, like really, like, you know, young baby. And I tried everything in my power. I believe in alternative methods first. You know, I had my inhalers for sure, you know, but I wanted to be a holistic, you know, person about it. I want to be holistic. So after a week, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed prednisone, and my HMO had changed me over to a new doctor. So great. You know, I had the older doctor who was always on my side. He always wanted to do the right thing by me. He always knew what to do and saved my life every time. Every time I needed him, he was there. So I had a brand new doctor who was 29. He said he believed in alternative methods because of his religion. So when I told him that I needed prednisone and why, and that my OBGYN doctor had already written a letter to the federal government saying that I was expected to die because of the condition I was suffering from sometime in the next year, she would be absolutely shocked if I survived another year of my life because of how bad she saw this spiked surges. She didn't know what to do. She'd never seen this before. She knew it was a hormonal thing, but she knew that your hormones go up when you breastfeed. So she was like, short of stopping breastfeeding, I don't know what else to do. I'm like, well, I'm not going to stop breastfeeding. I'm going to keep going. I want my kid to have a better immune system than I did because I was not breastfed as a child. And it was a decision I made, you know, and I felt like I'd have the backing of a doctor. So my OB had written the letter to the federal government, and they forgave my student loans because when you cannot work because you have a condition that might kill you in the next year, there's a secret little loophole. So, which I found out about. They kept hounding me constantly about paying my student loans, and I had just given birth, and I was just like, I can't work, and this is ridiculous. And it was going to cost me way more money just to advertise my hypnosis practice, you know, than any money I would pull in. So I was kind of in a catch-22 in many different ways. You know, I was just like, nothing was working. So she wrote the note, and I was forgiven my loan debt because of this. This is how serious this was. So I go to the doctor, the brand new doctor, and he said, well, we're going to just see how you do over the next week. It will probably clear up. I'm like, well, this has been about 12 times a day that this happens every day for the past 6 months. So no, don't think it's really going to clear up. So he didn't believe me, and I just said, look, I told him exactly what's happening. I gave him the number of the doctor. He refused to call because of his hubris and how he thought he was better than everyone else, and he couldn't, take another doctor's opinion because, he was oh so good at it, had been doing it for like a year, whereas my other doctor was pregnant with her first child when she started her practice, and she'd just given birth to her fifth child. They were like ranging in age up to like 19 years old. So, I mean, she'd been doing it for like 20 years as a doctor, right? She knew what she was doing. She knew what she was talking about, but he refused to look at the evidence. So anyway, I was just in this really horrible situation because of insurance and HMOs and all that. So my hands were tied as to who I could go see. And they said, oh, well, he would have to give you the number of a specialist, and specialists have to refer you to another person. It was like, so, like, seriously, healthcare is set up in America, in North America, to literally kill the patients. It's not there to, like, help us, in my opinion. So anyway, he said, well, let's see, if it doesn't clear up in like a week, then I'll give you like 30 milligrams of prednisone and see how that goes. And I'm like, that also won't help. This is what I've always been doing. It's, every day, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, whatever. So it's like for 7 days to 10 days, and if it gets really bad, it's 60, 60, 60 for 3 days. And anyway, it's just a whole thing. But I knew exactly, because, here I'm like in, my 30s, and I know my entire life that this has been going on in my body. But he didn't listen to me. So I went home without a prescription, and I was terrified. I knew I was in serious trouble. My rescue inhaler wasn't working. My other inhaler wasn't working. Nothing was working. All the alternative methods, nothing. It was just really, really bad. So the very next day, I had made it through the night, but the very next day at 10:30 in the morning, it was worse than ever. And I looked at my husband and I just said, we better call the doctor again. So we called him and he said, no, I think just still a few more days. And I'm like, well, I could be dead by then. And I called him again at 1:30 in the afternoon, and he refused to take my call. And I told the nurse that I was probably going to die. My aura was gray. I looked in the mirror and I was absolutely going to die. I mean, it's like I could barely see my face for the dense, thick cloud that hung around me, like this gray, thick aura. And normally I don't see auras, but I could see it when someone's going to die. And I knew it. I saw it around me. So, I called and I said, look, I'm going to sue you. And, I threatened them. And I said, if he doesn't prescribe this to me in the next hour and I do die, my husband is recording the call and we are going to sue your pants off because my child is going to grow up without a mother. And the lady took the message and was very rude to me and thought I was exaggerating. And I hung up the phone and I sat down at the table and my husband said, I know you haven't been smoking weed with me because of this. And not because of this, because you just went through a pregnancy. I mean, like it had been like what? Well, I gave birth after 8 months. My child was a preemie. And so it'd been like almost a year, I don't know, 14 months. It was 8 plus 6, 14. So it'd been 14 months. I hadn't smoked weed, actually. And he said, I know you're not doing this with me, but I know that this is good for your asthma. You were literally prescribed this for your asthma. So it's our only choice. It's our only hope. So I had medical grade cannabis and I hit the bong a couple times. And it made my lungs kind of swell up temporarily a little more. So my chest it was like I was breathing through a straw. That's how it felt, and it was very painful. And I looked over into the living room, and my 6-month-old baby girl was laying on a blanket that I had sewn by hand for her. And I just looked at my husband and I said, I need you to hold me. I need you to tell her every day that I loved her. Because I knew I was going to die. And my doctor didn't care. And I didn't know what else to do. I said, well, I'm going to go out consciously. I'm going to meditate because there's nothing else I can do. God's the only one that can save my life right now. So I said, I need one more favor, honey. I need you to hug me and hold me. And so I started to meditate, and I put my arms around my husband, and he held me in his arms. And I died. And I left my body, and I went through the blue tunnel, and I saw the white light ahead of me. And in the blue tunnel was Grandma Marion. No, it wasn't Grandma Marion. It was Grandma Marion's husband, George. Sorry. It was Grandma Marion's husband, George. And my little girl, who was 6 months old, was a young adult. And she was wearing a white robe. And she said, I'm not dead, Mom. I'm not going to die. But I was allowed to accompany you on your journey through the light. I always knew, I always suspected she was a little master. She's very spiritually aware and socially aware, like beyond anyone I've ever met in my life. Even to this day, you know. So who else was there? Paramahansa Yogananda was there, and Mahavatar Babaji was there. And they guided me towards the light and asked me to step through the doorway. And I went through the doorway, stepped into the light. Next thing I know, I'm in a room, and in that room was this glorious golden throne, and I realized I was in a huge building, and it looked like it was made from marble, and everything was very, very ancient looking, but fresh. Not old and crumbling, but like looked like it was a couple thousand years old, but it was like made yesterday. And I saw this throne. I was brought to this throne, and there was like the fountain where you go and you look at all of your past memories and you feel everything you've ever done to anyone, anything that you've made them feel. So if they feel love, if they feel hatred, if you've made someone feel afraid, you get to feel it from their perspective. Well, I was going to do that, and I'd already had several near-death experiences before this one. And they said, we're not going to do that right now. We're going to take you to God. So, all right, fine. So when I was at the throne of God, behind me, I felt people standing silently and meditating or saying silent prayers. And then to my right and my left, but I couldn't see them, I felt there were guardian angels. And behind me was my holy guardian angel to my right, even though I did not see them. And my spirit guide is probably with me. I felt her, but I didn't see her. So anyway, I was looking upon literally the throne of God, and it looked like it was 24 karat gold, but it was kind of like a mix between Greek and Etruscan and Egyptian styles. It was unique, but also similar to stuff we've seen on Earth, but to the nth degree, okay? So I expected to see a person sitting there, but when I looked, it was a sun, and it was radiating so bright and so brilliant. It was like literally the heat and brightness of 1,000 suns. It was impossible to look at it. It didn't burn my eyes though, and it didn't hurt me, and I didn't feel hot from it, but it felt like this radiating energy, and it was pure love. And God spoke. And she said in her beautiful, melodious voice, "My child, what do you want today?" And I said, "Well, I want to go back." And she said, "Well, what else?" And I said, I can't live like this anymore. I don't know what to do. I want to go back, but, I've been so sick." And she said, "Well, I'm going to grant you that you don't need asthma anymore. It's going to get a lot better from this point forward." And she also then granted me the ability to ask her 3 questions that I always wanted to know. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be brilliant. I'm going to take it home with me. And I don't know. I don't know what I was going to do with the information. Go on Art Bell, I guess. I don't know. Write a book, start a tour. I don't know. So I asked my questions, and I was super excited about the answers for the first 2. Couldn't wait to bring them back home. And guess what? The veil lifted during that time and then fell back over. And when I got back here, no. Spoiler alert, I can't even remember the questions, let alone the answers. But the 3rd question I do remember asking, and scientists have been for decades now searching for the equation, the unified field theory. So I asked Divine Mother, what is the equation that they've been looking for? I know you have the math. And she said, sure. And she waved her arm, and I saw an arm come out of the sun, this ball of light. And her arm came out, and she had very graceful, long, delicate fingers, and looked like a long sleeve, but it was very deep sleeves, like you would expect, maybe it's what I expected. You see the God you expect, I suppose. And since I believe in Mother and Father God, if we're children of God, there's got to be a mother, right? So, unless you're the goddess Athena, where people come out of your head, but that's a whole nother show. So, I watched as she waved her hand, and a blackboard, a chalkboard, like a green chalkboard, appeared, a really big one. And then a piece of chalk came up, and it started writing on the chalkboard, the unified field theory, the equation. And I was like, whoa. And it had all these symbols I'd never seen, but I understood them. And I got it. I saw it. And I'm like, whoo, I just solved quantum mechanics' biggest question, baby. Oh my God. I didn't solve it. I mean, obviously God knows the answer, but but I was like, oh, I'm going to take it back. I'm going to solve it. I'm going to tell everybody. I was so excited. And when I got back, the left-hand side of the equation, all I remember is a bunch of symbols were there. There was maybe half of an infinity symbol and an A, maybe a B, and a division line. So there was stuff above and below. But it wasn't as big as what the scientists think. So I don't know if that's helpful at all, but that's all I remember. And then there was an equal sign, and on the right half of the equation, it said 1. The answer to everything is 1. I was allowed to bring that part back. The unified field theory, the answer is equals 1. Oh, it's tremendous, right? It's so amazing. And I don't know if they already knew that or not, but hey, I do. At least I know it. I don't know if it's even a helpful piece of information, if it's a tidbit worth tattling. I don't know. But so God showed me that. And she said, would you like to go back? And I'm like, yeah. And she said, well, you no longer need asthma anymore. Expect it to get better. From time to time it might flare up, but it's not going to be what it was, basically. you don't have to have it anymore. You've learned your lessons from this one. Oh, cool. It was a lesson learning thing. Cool. So now when I get it, usually it's an empathic thing. And I know that someone is suffering near me, and I channel it. Like today, I was channeling the energy out from my twin and fixing it. And when I did that, my breathing got better. And I felt a little bit more right before I started recording this a second time. And I had to channel it out again because he was feeling more grief and sadness today. He's going through something pretty major, I can tell. But anyway, if you're listening to this, twin flame, I love you. I'm here for you, baby. It's all good. It's all good. So anyway, that's my beginning part of my Kundalini experience. Gets better too. It gets a lot better. So I'm gonna take a quick break. I'll be right back. So just as quickly as I had left my body to have the near-death experience and be told that I don't any longer need asthma, I slammed back into my body just as quick. Just boom, slammed in there. And I jumped. And my husband's like, "You okay, honey?" I go, "Well, yeah, I just died, so I'm okay, but oh my God." And he's like, "What? No, you're fine. You're in my arms the whole time." I'm like, "I just died in your arms." And I went to heaven and talked to God. She's doing great. And he's like, "Oh my God." I go, "Oh, hold on a minute." And I reached for the Kleenex box. And I started coughing up all this stuff out of my lungs. It's slightly graphic there. Sorry about that, guys. But it's what happened. So, between weed and Divine Mother, my life was saved. So I was really grateful to be back, and I started crying, and I was super, super grateful. I was like, oh man, I just want to bask in the feeling, because it feels so good to be out of my body and be in heaven. And our souls are enormous. I mean, we're really tall. Our souls are huge. And when we're here, we are just stuck inside these teeny tiny little human bodies. Even if you're 6'4", that's nothing compared to the size of your soul. And we're so compressed and just shoved down deep into these dense third dimensional bodies. It's kind of gross, and it feels stuffy and anxiety ridden, and it's just, I think it might be a big source of my anxiety, to be honest. It's like, because when I'm out of my body, I'm so free, and I could fly, and I feel amazing, so it was hard, and I wanted to bask in it. I want to pray for a little bit. And so my husband just sat at my side. He was on the floor, and he's holding my hand, and tears are pouring down my cheeks. I looked, my baby's still asleep. Of course she was, because she was there with me on the other side. She astral traveled and showed me her 29-year-old self. We're all about 29 or 30 in heaven. We all look really good, perfect bodies, no health issues. We're perfect, So I get kind of my bearings again, and I start to meditate. And also I went, oh my God, what's that? Oh my God. And my husband's like, what's happening? I go, okay, don't hold my hand now for a minute. I oh no, I'm scared. And he's like, what's happening? I'm like, okay, so from inside me, I'm going to tell you what I felt. I felt this energy starting to swirl kind of like in a circular fashion, but at the same time kind of in a infinity sign kind of fashion almost around my hips, in and out and around my hips a little bit, and it started to swirl. Well, then all of a sudden I felt inside of me like what I can only describe as the head of a very large serpent, like an anaconda. And I held an anaconda in the jungle, and it felt like it was that big. The one I held was 10 feet long. And as it raised and lifted its head and started to awaken, I started to shake, and my hips started to shake, like vibrate really rapidly. And I just felt like a low, deep rumbling within my body. And the head of the snake, it felt literally like there was a snake inside me. So it kind of freaked me out. And so I'm telling you guys this information because it's only energy. Don't freak out. There's not really a snake inside you. You're not really a reptilian alien. You don't have a reptilian alien inside you ready to burst out. Don't panic, okay? It's just white light energy, okay? So as it started to awaken and come up, I told my husband, I go, oh my God, something's happening. And he's like, what? And I go, I don't know. Like there's energy, and it's like this. And he's like, oh, it's your Kundalini. Oh my God. You're going to go up. Let it go up. Pull it up if it's going to awaken. He was so excited for me. He's like, I'm so happy for you. Oh my God. It's happening. Oh my God. All this years of work, of spiritual work, it's finally paying off. Like he was freaking out. He was just overjoyed for me. And I'm like, this does not feel very comfortable. This doesn't feel spiritual as much as just like, I think an alien's going to burst out of my stomach at any moment. So like, oh my God. And he's like, no. And I start getting really excited about it. Like, what? And he said, okay, start deep breathing. Okay. Deep breathing, And he said, just focus on your third eye. And when you get it to your third eye, try to pull it out your crown. You want it to be in one of those two chakras. You don't ever want it lower than that. And then I remembered the Marion Jones story that I just told you guys a few minutes ago. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like panicking. I don't want it to go the opposite way. I don't want it to shoot to the earth. I don't need my baby to have a crazy mom. Like, it was nuts. I was like, oh my God, so much pressure. Enough with the pressure already. Like, suddenly I could breathe better. And now here comes my Kundalini. So I felt it as it penetrated, like the first chakra, the second chakra, the third chakra. And I was trying not to panic. I was like, like a little scared, like, oh my God. And I'm like, just pull it into the heart, at least get to the level of the heart. And while I'm thinking that, my husband's next to me going, make sure it gets to your heart chakra. It's got to penetrate your heart chakra so it will never go down. It will just stay there. If it's going to stop, it'll only stay there. You don't want it to stay any lower than that. After it awakens, it's got to go up. I'm like, oh my God. And it was just like, I felt like I was climbing a mountain, just in some way. It was just like so much energy was being expelled, and I was like completely still in my chair. And he's like, keep your spine straight, keep your breathing going, focus on your crown chakra, focus on your third eye chakra. Keep going. Imagine it coming up, visualize it coming up, pull it up with your breath, pull it up with your sheer force of your will. So I did. And it penetrated my heart chakra, and I felt all kinds of love, and I started crying. And it came up through, because I had so much humility and gratitude and just intense feelings of complete love. I was so glad that I was going to live, that my little girl would know me as an adult when she would be an adult. So anyway, it kept coming up. It came into my throat chakra. And then as it was in between my throat chakra and my third eye chakra, so all of a sudden, all these aliens showed up. All these freaking great aliens showed up, and I felt spiritual masters all standing around me. And then all of a sudden, here comes, not the bad grays, mind you. There's many different species of gray aliens, the ETs, but these were the good ones. The one that I loved very much, I called him Leader. He was there. And he said, we have placed a crystal in your crown chakra to help this moment along faster, because you need to raise your Kundalini now. And he kind of left it and trailed off, and I knew it was something for the future. I had no idea what he was talking about, but okay. And I'm like, oh my God. And I literally said to them, oh my God, why are you guys here? Like, honestly, I just had a near-death experience. Now I'm having a Kundalini rising. And now the third thing is I'm having a freaking alien abduction experience at the same freaking time. Oh my God, can't you guys like wait one more day or something? You know, and then they all started laughing. They're like, well, we were always here for your spiritual growth. The whole time. We didn't mean to scare you. We were sorry that we scared you, but we were always just waiting and hoping that you would get there. And you're getting there right now. So we're going to help you. And they started giving me love and light, and I felt it from them for the first time. This overwhelming love, not the clinical coldness that I had felt before. And it was almost like they were scientists doing their job and being nervous about their experiment working out. It was like kind of an energy I had from them before. So now here I'm surrounded. I have Divine Mother with me. I have my family and the spiritual masters. My holy guardian angel, Archangel Michael, is standing right behind me, backing me up, you know, like literally backing me up while I'm pulling it up through my spine, and it came up through my throat and through my third eye. And I told my husband, is that my third eye? Is that my third eye? What do I do? What do I do? And he goes, crown, go for the crown, go for the crown. So it penetrated my third eye, and I started to see things from that day forward, actually. I could see things out of the corner of my eye. I can't see auras, and it's not super clear, and I could sense when a ghost is there, but I can't, or a spirit, you know, of any kind, whether it's someone astral projecting. I could always tell what it is, but if I close my eyes, my physical eyes, I could see in my third eye now because of this. So anyway, it went out. It went out the top of my head, and I'm like, now what? Where's the energy go now? What the hell? Like, okay, the snake is gone all the way through my spine. Now it's all the way up. It's going out my head. And he goes, I don't know. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take a deep breath. And I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? And Grandma Marion was with me in spirit. I felt her. And she just kind of showed me, just keep breathing, keep breathing. I felt everyone with me. And Grandma Marion was still alive at this time, but she was in spirit with me. Later, when I told her what happened, she had been asleep and didn't remember, but she'd been astral projected to me to help me through this. Anyway, what happens is, and this is super intense and interesting, is your Kundalini energy goes up, 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 up. And now I recommend you attach it to your 8th chakra, 18 inches above your head. I didn't know at the time, but it felt like a freaking fountain of light, literally like a fountain. And it was like little teeny, it split off as one big white energy, one huge Kundalini serpent. And then at the top of outside of my crown chakra, it no longer represented a serpent. It was rays of light coming out. And it was just, it came straight up out of my head and above my head. And then it started to curve back down around my body. And then as I was breathing, the chakras, the chakras in the bottom center of my feet opened up. And I started pulling the light back into my body, and it came back through my sacroiliac region and all the way up my Sushumna Nadi again. And it was a continuous display. Now, if you look at the magnetosphere of the planet Earth, it looked like that. The waves of magnetic energy. And I realized that Kundalini is like magnetic in nature. It's almost like a hot lava, and it felt hot and bright like the sun inside of me. And it was magnetic, but it was also electric. And it might be other stuff too, I don't know. But while it was coming up and creating that magnetosphere, I then felt a secondary Kundalini rising, and it was a blue one, a small blue one, and a small red one, like two small snakes, it felt like. And one went one direction and one went the other direction, and it went around my main Kundalini energy, representing exactly the caduceus in the medical buildings that you see in every doctor's office and every hospital ever. And that's what it represents. It's always like two snakes wrapped around a solid staff. And that's what it felt like. One was blue, one was red. The blue one felt cold. The red one felt hot. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I had a near-death experience in alien abduction. Even though I wasn't taken, they came to me and stayed there with me. But so I had a near-death experience, a Kundalini rising, and like an alien experience, all in the span of like 90 minutes. I mean, it was just like a spectacular moment, right? One moment I thought I was going to die, and the next minute I realized I was going to live, and I was going to live at a higher level. So that was like really interesting. And as soon as it was over, I felt like this magnetic force field around me. I felt powerful and strong, and I could breathe fine. That was good. And I was literally golden. The light that was coming out, the Kundalini energy was gold, like 24 karat gold, and white mixed in together, swirling around in both a wave and a particle. So it was like light energy, like actual light, but also electromagnetic. So all of this was going, and it was swirling, and it was in its space the way it's supposed to. And I couldn't believe it. And I remember sitting in front of my husband going, so what does this mean now? I mean, does this mean I'm like, enlightened? And he started laughing. He's like, well, if you have to ask. And I'm like, yeah, I know, right? It's like, I don't feel any different other than I physically feel different, but I don't suddenly have, I didn't eat from the tree of life. I didn't know everything automatically. I mean, I'm starting to see a lot more like hallucination style stuff. I think I was seeing and peering into the fourth dimension. I was seeing fairies out of the corner of my eye, and ghosts and spirits and quarks and little things that bleep in and out. It was like being on acid all the time. All of a sudden, not a strong acid, just very mild, like a microdose, where you're not seeing a whole lot, but you feel pretty damn good. And, you suddenly have a much happier disposition. You laugh a little more. And it felt bubbly, like bubbles, like champagne. Like I was champagne inside. I'm Dom Perignon inside my body. So I was in front of my husband going, I don't know what's going on. Like, now what? Now what happens? I mean, I had this most amazing experience, and now that it's over, and I still feel the energy of it, but it's still, for the most part, it's over. I feel kind of let down. It's kind of like how excited you are for 12 hours at Disneyland, and then when you're walking back to the car, you're just spent. Your feet hurt, your head hurts, and you don't want anyone in your family to see that you're actually crying like a little kid because you don't want to leave. And that's how kind of I felt. I felt like, on one hand, I loved that I was back. And on the other hand, I was depressed because now I could feel the physical aches and pains in my body. I could feel the tiredness. I could feel the third dimensional heaviness weighing me down, pulling and tugging at my soul. And I felt like my soul wanted to soar and fly and be free and literally spread my wings. I felt that I had wings, and I was just this big, beautiful being of light, and nothing could penetrate that glory that I was. And I was a reflection of God directly. And then suddenly I'm just a puny little human being that had a bad asthma attack and a near-death experience. And any minute I'm going to have to breastfeed my kid, and my asthma might get worse again. And it was kind of depressing. So as I was talking to my husband though about it, and here's the third story, he was like, oh my God. I'm like, what? He goes, I feel something weird. Like there's like bugs crawling on my legs and my arms. And he's like, he starts slapping away at his head. I'm like, are you high? He's like, well, yeah, I'm high, but this doesn't normally happen. I mean, I think my Kundalini is awakening. I'm like, oh my God, no way. He goes, sometimes when you're near somebody whose Kundalini is risen, it will spark automatically. It will spark someone else's. So it can happen. Your Kundalini, if you're next to your best friend's Kundalini raises, it's a very high likely chance if you're next to them in their vicinity, probably in that magnetic force field that happens, that it could spark it. Also, dangerous situations can spark it. Accidents can spark it. Like, life or death situations spark it quite often. Natural disasters. Kundalini can be sparked naturally and immediately for a lot of different reasons. And if you've never been a meditator, don't panic. It's still going to happen. It could still happen. And as we hit the fifth dimension more and more, it's going to start spontaneously happening around the planet. I have a feeling sometime during March, y'all may possibly go through it. March is going to be a huge amount of energy, and it's probably going to spark people's Kundalini. I mean, while I'm telling you the story, I almost left my body twice because my Kundalini is risen. It wasn't always risen. I think it rose, and then I had several more Kundalini experiences after that, and after a while it was just up. But then when I went through the divorce, I think that it was forced back down for a while. It didn't become dormant completely. It would still rise once in a great while, but for the most part, I was living out of my lower chakras because I was scared and I was sad. I was sexually frustrated. I mean, it happened right when I hit my sexual peak. So at the age of 38, great. Now I'm never going to have sex again in my life. Are you kidding me right now? I mean, that was like what I was feeling. So it's like, you get stuck in that ego crap and that, it's like love is always going to come around. Don't panic. I've met, old people that fall in love in their late 70s or 80s. So, I mean, it can happen at any time. Don't worry. But I was worried when I was 38. I was like, oh man. So now that I'm 50, I'm fine. I'm good. But what happened with my husband was I sparked his Kundalini rising. And he's like, oh my God. And then he's like, I feel the snake. Oh my God. And then so I'm the one cheering him on now. Where is it now? Where's your serpent? He's like, this feels so freaking weird. I feel so weird. I feel weird. Like there's something inside me crawling around. I'm like, I know, it's so freaking weird, right? And it kind of curves a little bit over to the left when it's in your lower chakras, because your chakras aren't exactly in a direct line. You can feel it doing that. You're like, oh, it feels like there's a snake inside you, like a giant anaconda. But then when you realize that that's your energy, that's your life force, if you realize that, it kind of relaxes you and you can pull it up all the way to your crown and even into your 8th chakra, 18 inches above your head. But anyway, so he put his hands down. He didn't know, like, should I put my hands on my lap? Should I put my hands on the side of the chair? Do I put them back on my lap? Like, do I have my hands facing up? Do I do a mudra position? He just didn't know what to do with his hands. He tried everything. He's like, I don't know what's better. I don't know. And he pulled it up. I go, remember, pull out your crown. And he was so excited. And he finally got it up to his crown, and he goes, whoa, it does. It's like going everywhere, like a fountain, in all these little, like thin streams of light. I'm all, yeah, I forgot to tell you about that part. I told you it's going everywhere, but I didn't explain it, I didn't have words for it, and I was just in the middle of still experiencing it. And he goes, oh my God. And I go, what? And he goes, Marion's here. And he started crying. He said, Grandma Marion's here. Oh my God. He goes, Marion, what are you doing? And she says, pay attention, Joe. And everyone in his family, for whatever reason, his name was Terrell, but they called him Joe. But it was like random. But so she's like, pay attention, Joe. Don't pay attention to me. Pay attention to your Kundalini. Pull it up. Get it up to your crown. And he got up to the crown, and she said, now, Joe, be a light unto the world. Let your light shine. Be a fountain of light. Be a fountain under the world, and let the fountain go under your feet. And she described that part for him. I had told him the first part, and she told him the second part. And he came out and he told me, he goes, oh my God. And he's like crying. He goes, I can't call Marion. It's so late now. It's like 6 o'clock our time. It's like 7 or 8 her time. I don't remember how I think it's like 1 hour ahead of us in Arizona. And he goes, I don't know if I should call her. And he's like all debating. He's like, okay, I'm going to call her. And then she's a little upset. She's like, well, I just got up from a nap. I'm getting ready to go back to bed. So what's going on? And he's like, well, you just helped me through my Kundalini awakening experience, Marion, and I'm so grateful for you. And she's like, oh, I didn't even know. I must have been out of my body again doing my astral projection, and I didn't remember when I woke up. And she's like, yeah, I do different tasks while I sleep. You know, for her, it was just another normal day. But she said she's so happy for us. And she said, well, Elena's rose too, right? And he's like, how did you know that? She's like, I just had a feeling. I just feel it. So those are my Grandma Marion stories for the day. It's pretty intense stuff, right? Like for real. But that's what happened. That was how my Kundalini experience went. Hopefully yours won't be so crazy dramatic with the near-death experience part. It won't be scary and weird with the aliens part, but it might be. They pulled out, I think, was it 1? Was it 2? Was it 3? No, they pulled out 2 different crystals that were interdimensional, multidimensional crystals that were stuck in my aura, and that was part of my implants. They said, and there was one above at the top of my crown chakra, and they said, we can remove it now because you've gotten to that level. And as you recall, a few weeks ago, I said that a different group of aliens now have come and they've injected the base of my skull with liquid light that was formulated of interdimensional crystals, like liquid crystals, little itty bitty crystals, almost like nanotechnology. And it's gone through my whole body, and it's helping me form my crystalline body, my Merkaba, and taking out the density that is in my body. I have a sneaking suspicion I'm not the only one. So I don't know if you guys want to meditate and pray on that and see if it's happening to you as well. But I have a feeling that a lot of us starseeds are having the same experiences. And when one of us says it to the others, we're like, oh yeah, right? That's right. I did have, that pain at the base of my skull on both sides, or, So that is my Kundalini part 2. And also Grandma Marion stories, several actually, for tonight. So anyway, I love you guys with my heart and soul. As long as there is a breath in me and I'm alive, I will try to keep doing this podcast daily and give you guys all the knowledge I personally have, even if it's formerly secret. I think it's time. I know it's time. God says it's time. We're all going to the 5th together. We're all going to live and create the new heaven on earth. Hopefully my twin will be at my side so we can walk through the gateway of heaven together. The new earth, which is literally heaven on earth. I don't know, guys. Tomorrow is not going to top today, that's for damn sure. I don't even know what's coming up tomorrow. Stick around, though. Stay tuned. You never know. A lot can happen between now and tomorrow. Well, I love you guys very much, and this is it. So I'm signing off with peace and joy and the high vibes of the holy fifth dimension. Until next time. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you.